Welcome to Desert Wanderers, produced by Salt and Light Radio. If you're new here, we bridge the gap between you and the person in the pew next to you. I will be interviewing priests, religious, and laity in our local Boise diocese, asking questions that'll help you navigate your vocation and help build community wherever you are with whatever resources you may have. Let's build the city of God together. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Great. How are you? Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Tis the season.
We're in all of it. That's my favorite thing about the Christmas, like being a Catholic in the Christmas season, is like, I don't have to stop saying Merry Christmas. Granted, this year I did Advent a little differently, so I didn't say Merry Christmas to anyone all Advent. So people are like, Merry Christmas, and I'm like, thanks. It was, anyways.
I started saying Merry Christmas about the 23rd.
Yeah.
And you know, they're really good Catholics. They're like, not yet.
I know.
It's like,
I said it to Diana, and Diana was like, we're not allowed to say that yet. And I'm like, I'm just not going to see you
I agree with that.
at Christmas. Yeah. So I'll just say it now.
Yes.
So just, But anyways, so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I'm so excited to have you on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is like, can you just introduce yourself and what you do for how long you've been with Salt and Light, and like,
sure. Because
I think some people know you, but I don't think like the general audience, you're kind of like more behind the scenes
Absolutely.
than like Brian and Hope or I. So like, or Ramiro. So just like, tell us about you and how long you've been with Salt and Light and everything.
So my name is Carol Brown, and my title has changed through the 15 years I've been here. So we've been on the air. This is our 15th year of broadcasting. Mm-hmm. And so I have been with the organization since the beginning. We flipped the switch on my birthday, September 25th, 2009. Oh my gosh. So I know every year, the anniversary. So it's really great. I was a homeschooling mom at the time, and I was also the director of Capstone Missions. So another nonprofit organization.
Oh, okay.
And so this was a volunteer gig. And I knew the power of the media because of my husband. He had a podcast. He's bleeding edge technology, okay? So he had a podcast.
In 2009?
Yeah, prior to.
Wow.
So at the time, our operations manager was named Steve Jess, and he did public radio at Boise State. And he got with Bill Teskey and Keith and said, hey, there's a local guy that does a podcast. I had no idea that Steve Jess listened to this podcast, right? What? So anyway, Bill and Keith met with my husband, Brent. And the podcast was known. It was picked up by the StarQuest Podcast Network, SQPN, Father Roderick from the Netherlands. And so, it was like pretty amazing.
Is he still doing it?
He is not.
Oh,
and the podcast was with Father Mike Lee, who's now in the Wyoming area, I think, and Mike Inglesby. So I just know that these three guys, my husband included, are just brilliant. And I would just love listening to them at a kitchen table or whatnot. Like, you really should record this. And so my husband, being into technology, researched all the podcast whatnots, right? And figured this out. And this, back in the day when this wasn't a thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was called Into the Deep, and they did it. And the reason why Brent didn't want to be on the radio, because it wasn't formatted for radio, because, the timing wasn't correct. And nor did he have the time as a dad with young kids to go back and edit it. He didn't want to do that. It was just a passion for him. Right. So anyway, he sat with Bill and Keith, and they said, no, but you really need to talk to my wife. Because through the fruits of working with Capstone Missions, that was an organic nonprofit started in the Magic Valley, not parish-based at all, a group of Catholics. We supported orphanages in Tijuana, Mexico. And so I was part of that board, and then we were trying to hire an executive director, and ultimately no one applied, and they said, why don't you just do it, Carol? So I became the first executive director in building a nonprofit, grassroots, getting into parishes, breaking parish boundaries. That I had been doing that. And so that's why I said, talk to Carol. She can help you with this, because we're starting Salt and Light Radio, and we're not parish-based. And so I did. God gave me those skills to do that. So I volunteered for Salt and Light Radio for years, did the pledge drives, and it totally is a supernatural gift given to me. I understand that. I told Keith, in the Catholic radio world, it was unheard of to have a pledge drive. We were on the air for 5 weeks. We needed the money. What does a pledge drive look like, right? None of us knew what we were doing. So we hired Jerry Usher to come in. But what I want to get to is I saw it all in a dream. I'm like, Keith, I know how we're supposed to do this. I have the vision. I was given the vision, and we did it. And it was a supernatural pledge drive. And so anyway, the whole model and everything came from up here through the grace of God and the Holy Spirit. And so, yeah, I've been doing pledge drives ever since. 15 years later, here I am. So, yeah, I was a volunteer for years and paralleled with Capstone Missions, and the radio just kind of got more and more demanding. And so I left Capstone Missions and became here as a contractor for a while because I was still homeschooling my kids.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, everything blends together. After a contractor, I became a part-time employee until this summer. This is shocking. This is news alert. Most people don't know that I've been part-time.
I remember when I started working here, and I think I was talking, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I remember it was someone saying the story about like they had asked you how many hours you worked a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And Brian and Hope and everyone was shocked that you were like part-time. They're like, there's no way. There's no way you can be getting all of this done.
Yeah.
And
it's
and
just
still being part-time.
the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I was in the Army as a logistician.
Oh, really?
Beans, bullets, and people. Yeah, I was a captain. So I do logistics. And I
had no idea about
the
that.
U.S.
What?
government has invested thousands of dollars in me to train me to do this, all for God. Honestly, I believe that. And that's a whole different story.
Okay, we're going to have you on because I need to know. Like, I had no idea.
But
That's
you look
crazy.
back in your life and it's like, okay, God, I didn't grow up and say, I want to be a logistician, but I learned all the ins and outs of that. And I think it's truly for this purpose to help the radio station do this on beans, right? We hardly any revenue to do what we do. It's just phenomenal. Just, how many employees we have and how we've grown over the 15 years. So it's just been such a blessing to be part of it, to have you join the team and do, we're always exploring how best to accomplish our mission. Evangelize and teach through multimedia communication. So not solely the radio, but multimedia. So here's Natalie as our podcast creator and Facebook or social media content creator, which we're excited to have you reach out in new lives. And so I'm super excited about it's our 15th year and what it looks like going forward. The growing of the different stations as well is very exciting. So
well, also, like, it's the 15th year, but it's also the Jubilee year. So, like, this year's going to be great.
It is.
We're going to be great.
I am super duper excited. And my official title is Community Relations and Marketing Manager.
Yeah.
So I go out to the communities too, more so now that I've graduated all my children from homeschool, I have more time. So now I'm going to be a full-time employee at Salt Night Radio. I actually have an office and everything. So, well, we have to find a home for me. So somewhere in this building, I will have an office and work from here because my son is now 19 and my husband said, it's okay. I can leave the house. It was so funny. He's like, it's okay. I think you did your duty. Yeah, you did your duty as a stay-at-home mom.
It's all right.
Yes. So it's pretty funny. So I'm going to be an adult and go out and do this full time. So I'm pretty excited. But part of it, and a lot of our listening audience from the Treasure Valley and Camas Prairie, Magic Valley, Eastern Idaho have seen me because I've been going out and visiting them in our listening areas. So that has been super fun.
You did parades all summer, right?
Yes, I've been, in the van, did the Eucharistic pilgrimage. That was a blast. So I love going out in the community, getting to know these parishioners, the people. I call myself a daughter of the diocese. I was born in St. Jerome's in Jerome. And so getting to know the people of our diocese is just awesome. And to help them in their faith journey is even the best. I have the best job. Yeah. So I'm super excited. Yeah.
I think that's the cool thing about working for a Catholic organization is like sometimes when I'm like so blessed because I even like not even just working with a Catholic organization, but I get to run a podcast. Like who does that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
being on the radio, right? For like Hope and Brian.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's also really fun and there's a creative like aspect to it and it's really beautiful. But even more than that, it's like Catholic, so like prayer time is encouraged. Absolutely. And like having a family life and raising kids and all of this is so important. And it's beautiful to work for a company, and I know not everyone can, So it's just a huge blessing. But I mean, part of that is like you get to walk with people, you know, you get to talk to people about their faith journeys, and the people that we affect is all just going to be like, it's going to create so much fruit in our community, and it has created so much fruit in our community, you know? So it's just, it's a huge blessing all around, you know?
Yeah. God is good.
So I think a great place to start is, the whole episode for today for everyone is that we are focusing on 2025. Like, this is our New Year's episode, so we are going to be talking about events, what we have coming up, and how you can get involved with us. But not only just that, but like the amazing opportunities in our diocese. So I think the best way to do this is literally just to go like month by month, probably, and talk about the different events. So I think most people know that women's conference and the men's conference are put on by Salt and Light. But are there any other things before we jump into the events? Are there any other main events that you think people in the diocese don't realize comes from Salt and Light?
Great question. I think probably the conference is confusing to them. It is.
Yeah, the men's conference I think is definitely more confusing than the women's conference.
Yeah, because the bishop's there a lot, and yeah. But probably what'll help me is go month by month.
Okay, that's fine.
I was just thinking of January, the Life Mass in March. It's not ours, but we like to promote it. We're definitely a pro-life Catholic radio station. We have a pro-life segment on Morning Light, and you've had pro-life episodes on Desert Wanderers. So please show up December 25th, Life Mass at 11, and we'll broadcast online. And then we have the March at 1 o'clock, Julia Davis Park. And I've seen, because I read all the bulletins, put out the spotlight every week, Monday, that there are some life marches going on in other areas. But yeah, January, kind of focus on life issues.
Before we hop into the events, let's go ahead and talk about that. So one of the things you mentioned was the spotlight, right? And I know that there is a fair amount of people that get this in their emails, but if you haven't gotten this before, or if you've never heard about it, Salt and Light puts on a highlight of all the events for the whole diocese, correct? So it's broken
just
up
in our listening area.
Oh, in our listening areas.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
because we have different ones.
Time.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I have 4 that I'm doing right now.
Right. So what are those?
Treasure Valley, Magic Valley, Eastern Idaho, and Camas Prairie.
Yes.
And so it's every Monday at 3 o'clock, Divine Mercy Hour.
Yeah.
I scour all the bulletins, social medias, newsletters, Facebook. So I get text messages from parishes as well, and try to find the events, because I really like to. Sometimes there's phenomenal events that people just don't know about. It wasn't published, or a lot of people may not read the bulletin or not on social media. So I try to consolidate everything into one location. Yeah. And so if you're not receiving it in your email each week, you can go on saltandlightradio.com under resources and click on the spotlight.
Yeah.
And subscribe to it. But I also post it on the web as well. So
yeah, so I would say that Spotlight is something that if you are really struggling with finding community events or finding a community, this is a good place to start, just to look at what's going on so that you can start to go to different events and try to build out that community for yourself. So
absolutely.
I think the Spotlight is something that I definitely wanted to stop on for a second, because if people haven't heard of it, like, it's a really good resource for our community.
And for example, any Holy Days of Obligation, I consolidate all those masses and just make it important that you can go. So maybe your parish time doesn't work with your work schedule or whatnot. You can find it. And I often get requests as the years have progressed. People are on my case a little bit earlier, like, hey, you don't have it listed yet. I'm like, hey, I've got 2 weeks yet. Anyway, but we do
Or penitential services is another one that you did, right?
Absolutely.
And it lists, and to explain that to the listeners, is it's like you have all the different times and locations for every. Is it every parish in the diocese?
No, just our listening areas.
Just the listening. So those 4 areas.
Because along with what I'm publishing on the Spotlight, you're hearing it on the air as well with public service announcements. So if you're an event coordinator and you want it on the air and you submit a public service announcement, or vice versa, I get a lot of emails. Can you get this on your Spotlight or your weekly calendar? I'm like, sure. Have you done a public service announcement? So they work hand in hand as well. And so wherever the megaphone is in that listening area, it just makes more sense than the whole diocese. However, if there's a very unique thing, like there's been some men's conferences, men's retreats in northern Idaho, which further north than Grangeville area, we're happy to promote that. If someone, so absolutely.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're not a listener on the radio, we also have the Salt and Light app, which has the podcast. It has all of our previous podcasts, the Salt Podcast, the Man Cave, all these other things. But it's also going to have the spotlight on there as well. And so if you listen on the app, you can find it through those resources.
Absolutely. And we go to a lot of diocesan events like ICYC, and I just love pulling out the app, and you'll see individuals like, well, you're not in my area. I'm like, well, not yet. We're working on that, but you can totally listen on the app. And then I pull up the events calendar. It was just, she was from Nez Perce, which is a little town in northern Idaho.
Yeah.
And I pull it out and like, here's your events calendar. She's like, you love us, right?
Yeah.
you know what we're doing? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You're part of the Salt and Light Radio family. And so we care with what you're doing, and we want you to be successful, and we want to promote and you just help everyone. So
yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into January. So January, what are our big events?
Mostly the Life Mass and March, and especially listening to on air. So if you're not able to drive to Boise, we understand that. Go ahead and listen to the Mass with the bishop. Bishop Peter always has an amazing homily for that Mass. And we don't do the march itself, but we have our big banner. We're on the steps. And when I say we don't do the march ourselves, we don't broadcast it or whatever. But
right, like video it, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But we're there. We have our Salt and Light Radio is a pro-life organization, or I think is what our banner says. So.
Do you know what time that Mass starts?
11 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then does the Life March, where does that start off? Does it start at the Capitol?
It starts at Julia Davis Park.
Oh, and then it goes all the way to the Capitol.
Capitol steps, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll hear Emily Noggle come on and talk about it. We often have the keynote on Morning Light come and chat, so you can be in the know about what's going on. It's not a Catholic event per se, the rally, but you'll see all your friends there.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, that's why we don't broadcast it. Excuse me, because it's not like a diocesan event or anything. Yeah. Right. But the big thing that we're prepping for and have been for months is the men's conference in February. That's February 1st. And something new we're doing. So an important date in January to remember men, January 19th. We're closing registration for in-person just to help us logistically plan, because we have a lot of people last minute, and it just makes our lives very difficult getting registration materials together. But you can still register for the men's conference at a watch party or watch it online.
Yeah, okay.
But now, granted, it might get closed in person even earlier than January 19th if we sell out.
Right.
So anyway, just keep that in mind. So the month of January, get your men registered, get them there. And then ladies, if you want to help, if you're in the area or you want to come, it's a really fun time we serve the men. And then vice versa for the women's conference in September, we ask the men to volunteer and serve the ladies. So there's a sign-up sheet on the Spotlight. We have a little click button. I'm not sure where the volunteer click button is now, but if you're interested, just email me, carol@saltandlightradio.com, and we'll get you hooked up for a shift. You don't have to be there the whole day.
Yeah, just a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could be there all day if you wanted, but
absolutely.
You could do a shift.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful because one of the things that I appreciated about the women's conference is when you have men there, it's easier to direct because you're not getting lost within the voices of the hubbub of all the women, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same with the men. When you have a feminine voice, there's just something a little different. So it is needed. Like, this is a point that we actually need female. It's important that we have female volunteers for the men conference.
And absolutely. And we want the men. We want the men to participate in the conference and not be working it. It's
right, exactly.
Yeah, vice versa. Yeah, it's so funny. It took us a couple years to figure that out about the intonation of the women and the male voices. Like, you could be on this, it's time to get back with a women's voice, and you just didn't hear it. But we had a gentleman get the mic, and everyone, time to go back.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. It does. Yeah. It's something different. It helps them know, okay, yeah, good, very valid point. And then we will also we just started last year conferences for Sally Luz Radio, our Spanish station.
Yes.
And so we have a women's conference February 1st is the men's, March 1st is the women's Hispanic conference at St. Jerome's in Jerome. So we're super excited to go take that conference to the Magic Valley. We did that because there's a large population of Hispanics there. And last year, they rented all these buses to go to Caldwell. Like, we can come to you. And so
it's a good halfway point, too, for the other side of the state as well.
Yes. Yeah. And we're on the air in Idaho Falls now, too, so it's closer to them as well. So it's our first time in that area. I'm very excited about the possibilities. Once again, raising up a new group of volunteers. It's something different we haven't done before. That's kind of the story of our life as Salt and Light Radio, is doing new things.
Yeah.
And with the partnership of parishes, the parish priests, parish offices, and area volunteers. So,
and then again, so if you're a volunteer or if you're someone that's wanting to get connected in the community, I would just say if you're bilingual, please go ahead and volunteer for one of the events, right? One of the Hispanic men or women's conferences, because
absolutely.
we definitely love to see you, and we'll feed you good food, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, ma'am. It's really good food. The next thing happening in March, after the March 1st Women's Conference in Spanish, is our pledge drive. So we have 2 pledge drives a year, and that's our primary financial support that helps us. So we only come to people 2 times a year on the pledge drives, 6 days. So we run
6 days of the whole year, not 6 days per pledge drive.
Correct.
It's 6 days of the whole year. 3
in the fall, 3 in the spring. And so March 12th through the 14th is our spring pledge drive, and our theme is the work of our hands. And so we have a lot of exciting ideas. I always try to do something new for the pledge drive, make it interesting, and think of the work of the hands. A lot of artisans are going to come in. What they do, to serve God with their hands. And so if that's you, and you'd like to come and share your story about what you do for God with the work of your hands, we'd love to. We have parish ambassadors, which is another thing. I help coordinate the parish ambassadors out there in the communities. The parish ambassadors are looking for guests for the pledge drive hours. So, and
if you want to bring in your bread or your cakes or anything, then you're more than welcome.
Woodworking, whatever. And I think if we collect enough, we're going to do drawings every hour for these items.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yes. And then the other thing we're going to do is have a drawing per day for new donors. So these are going to be really amazing prizes. So if you've never ever donated, I don't know if whatever the barrier was that you just never have. We try to make it super easy online or call or just mail in a check or whatever. We're entering people into drawings. If you've never donated, we will know that based on our database. Like, your name's not in there. It's like, okay. And these prizes are going to be pretty exciting. I can't say everything about it, but
the other thing is, like, I remember, my first pledge drive that I actually listened to was the spring of last year, and it was partly because I was involved in it. But the stories are really good, and sometimes we forget that, having bigger names on and watching other people speak that are really popular, they're always really good, but there's so many stories of people locally that have just amazing stories of how they've overcome something, or how they're, how they're living their faith out, or what they're doing. So for this one, there might be a lot of people that make rosaries or make bread, and they're, doing something very practical, not even practical. It doesn't even necessarily have to be artwork doesn't necessarily have to be Christian to be good and still honor God. Right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
This stuff is kind of cool to see how people are living their life and doing it in a Christian way too. So it's
true.
Yeah. It's just awesome to listen to the stories and to get to know the people, in your local community too. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's lovely. And there's people that listen all time, and we have podcasts as well of the different interview segments, but you really get to know the beauty of our diocese, the people in the pew beside you that you had no idea their story. So it's a beautiful opportunity to hear those stories. So that's in March 12th through the 14th, and I can skip ahead. The fall one is in October, but the spring one is where it's at. I want you to focus right. Yeah. And then April, we are doing a Jubilee pilgrimage, and I think we're at capacity, but if not, you can still try. It's going to Rome. Deacon Chef Lou Aaron is one of the leaders. He kind of pinpointed every spot of the visit. It's very exciting. And he does a segment on Morning Light called Cooking with Scripture. So if you haven't ever listened to it, it's phenomenal. But he coordinated with Keith Pettyjohn all these spots in Italy. It's kind of off the beaten path. Eucharistic miracles, relics of saints. It's going to be a phenomenal Jubilee pilgrimage, and indeed in Rome.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I've heard that people that have had inflammatory issues or autoimmune diseases actually can eat, because the food and the minerals in the soil, and how they the regulations that they have on their food in Italy, they've put so much work in having just good nutritious food that their health, they spend a lot less in healthcare, because they spend so much on the foundation and the root, right? So my mom is actually going on a pilgrimage. She's going with Father Paco, and Father Nathan Dale, and so she's going on that one, and she's like, she's been on carnivore for the last, like, I don't know, year, basically. It's been a long time. And she's like, I can't wait because, like, I still, like, she's starting to get off of it now. And she's like, I can still feel like days when I'm tired. She's like, I am going to just eat all of the pasta when I go to Italy. So I've heard miracle stories of people that just go and they have their celiac and they can go and have pasta in Italy, which is crazy. Or people that have, different, like, autoimmune disorders that go and eat and they feel like the best they've ever felt. So, I mean, I'm a little jealous. I wish someone could bring me back some Italian, like, true Italian food, but,
I went to World Youth Day and I went on the pilgrimage last year, and it's true. For whatever reason, people that had celiac can eat the breads there and everything, and it's just phenomenal. We found in Costco, they have these amazing little cakes from Portugal. Yeah. And they're in the freezer section. So we bought them for our son because my son and myself, we went to World Youth Day. So we bought it for Christmas. I thought it was so exciting to see these little Portuguese cut. And so for those that know what I'm talking about, they're at Costco in the freezer section, little Portuguese desserts. I can't pronounce what they're called, but you saw them everywhere.
We'll put the name out. We'll type it in.
Yeah,
you can choose how to say it however you want.
It's probably not as complicated as I have it in my head, but anyway, very exciting. So I think the pilgrimage is at capacity, but if you're listening to this and you haven't had a chance, call the station and we can see if we can get you in. But I think it's there. But and Deacon Nelson Sintra, who is also on Desert Wanderers as well. So
he does our generational Catholicism series. So he's going to be out on that pilgrimage as well.
Oh, it's going to be phenomenal. So congratulations for those that could afford to go and have the time to go and whatnot. So that's going to be phenomenal.
For them, though, I mean, have Deacon Lou to go with them is going to be awesome because he's a foodie. So if you're a foodie, it's going to be like, great.
He picked every single restaurant that they're going to.
Yeah.
It's great. Very good. May, we're kind of taking a little bit of a break, which is in preparation for this summer. So you should have Keith on and talk about the Vigil Project, which is going to be a concert series. It's our replacement for the gala dinner that we've done in the summer before. But it's a super exciting project, something new we're trying to visit all our listening areas. So Keith will be on. He can talk more about the excitement of that. That's very exciting. But something that we've done in June historically is a vocations golf tournament.
Yes.
So
not to like create like some suspense here, but I am so excited.
I know this year going to be great.
It's going to be so good. Yeah.
Yes. So, golf courses themselves have been very difficult to work with golf tournaments and what we've found over the years. And so, we've decided to try something different, and we partner with the Diocese of Boise Vocations Office, and it's just a 50-50 split, with the revenue raised. So we're supporting the vocations and supporting the station. But it was a lot of effort and not a lot of revenue raised. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board to see. And something I learned in my capstone mission days is I had talked to Ronald McDonald House, and one of their most productive, effective, fun fundraisers that they never ever thought of before was a trap shoot. So we brought it up and thought, let's try it. Okay, so we've been talking. Angela Atha is our events coordinator here, and she's been talking with the Boise Gun Club. And so this is going to happen. It's going to be so exciting. And it's going to be in August. We've talked to Father Nathan Dale as well. So we're going to have a vocations trap shoot.
Yes.
Seminarians will be there. We talked about the age range because we know a lot of young men and young women also hunt with their families, and they're probably safer than a lot of the older men. With their hunter safety classes and whatnot. So
what did you guys decide on the age then?
I don't know that we're there yet. It's a lot of negotiation, because the more I talk about that, they're like, oh, my son's too young. And it's like, well, okay. So I'm not sure where we're at on that age, but so stay tuned.
Well, this is a thing that you'll want to keep up on, because this is the reason I got so excited about it is there's so many hunters in Idaho, and so many of them do this as a family event. So this is not only a way for them to support the seminaries, but this is a way for your kids to be exposed to seminaries, like seminarians, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that's so awesome, that we can kind of involve like a whole family instead of like a golf tournament. I mean, yes, there are kids that golf, but most of the time it was, I think, less families, right? And more individuals. So this is, it seems like it's going to be something that the whole family can get behind, which is great.
New novel. We'll see how it goes. And I'm pretty excited to try. Yeah, very good. And then our new, talking about generational spectrum stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this. So we have noticed, I have young adults at my home, I had talked about my homeschoolers are graduating. So I'm kind of in the sphere of young adults.
Mm-hmm.
You're a young adult yourself.
I still fit in that category, only for
Yeah.
not for a long, long time, but I still fit there.
Yes. Okay.
It wasn't very long ago that I was like in this stage of life, I guess, is what
Yes.
what we're alluding to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm hearing from a lot of young adults, it's really hard to date.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find faithful Catholic people to date.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have a faithful Catholic family and find that spouse, you have to date.
Mm-hmm.
That's a step in there that they're missing.
Yeah.
So anyway, Natalie had this really great idea, which I think is going to be so fun. Do you want to share?
Yeah. So I had an idea. Partly because I always wanted to go to one myself. I thought it would be really fun, but I had the idea to do a Catholic speed dating event, which I think would be great. And then one of the parts of this is it's a vocational speed dating. You're not going to have a ton of vocations, but I think we'll have a priest and then some religious there on top of all of the singles that show up for the event. And it will be a speed dating event. We'll probably have some food and drinks there. And then it'll be a ticketed event to cover that cost or whatever. But it is going to be an event to just like get to meet people in your community. And like the best, like worst case scenario, you show up and you make friends.
Right.
Like that's the worst thing that could happen. Right.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's an opportunity for people to get out there and to kind of just see who's out there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm really excited for that. And I know that, I mean, I've been married for 3 years. Yeah, I've been married for 3 years and we've been dating. We dated for the 1 year before that. So like I've been with my spouse for 4 years and I remember it was really sucked before that. So it was really hard. And so I'm really excited because I think that's something that our community needs. And I think it's going to be a good event.
And our dream would be that we go to every listening area and do this.
Yeah,
so we'll see
that would be the dream.
Yes.
Yeah, so that we could get our community, every community that we have, every community that we have listeners, we could do that. But also, like, it would be a great opportunity once we get more stations to hopefully cover the whole state, right?
Yeah,
we would love to like get the whole state to be involved so that wherever you live and wherever your community, you can get involved. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. We've been talking about it.
Yeah. It's like, we dream it. It might become reality. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited about the young adults. So,
and that's in August, right?
Correct. And then right off the heels of that will be the women's conference, which I should back up. The women's conference is September 6th, Holy Apostles Meridian, and it's also online. But registration is July 15th.
That's important. This is very important because it sells out so fast.
It does. It does. And
if you don't hear about it and you're like 2 weeks after the opening, you're not going to get a ticket.
No.
Unfortunately.
So we changed venues last year to Holy Apostles. And so had we stayed at St. Paul's in Nampa, we would have sold out in 1 day last year.
I think it wasn't even a whole day. I think it was like a couple of hours. We probably would have sold out in like 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah. It was crazy. So we do have more seats in Holy Apostles. I do think that it took us a week last year to sell out. I think it'll be a few days this time. So, but it does hurt my heart when people are new to the area and they're like, "Oh, I saw it," but I thought, well, it's in September. I'll just register later. And they go, and I get so many emails of people like, "It says it's closed, and how can it be closed?" And it's like, So be sure to share it with your girlfriends. July 15th, registration opens. IdahoCatholicWomen.org. Yeah. For the conference, it's September 6th.
Can you share who the speakers or some of the speakers?
I'll just start with Kristalina Everett. She's on Salt and Light Radio on Saturday mornings, so be sure to tune in. And she has a religious sister friend that she is wanting to join her, and so we're working on that collaboration to bring her in. And that worked so well at this last conference.
Oh my goodness. Yes, with Carrie.
Yes.
That was amazing with Sister Mary, Madeline, Todd, and Carrie.
Yes.
It was so good.
But, God works that way. So Sister Mary Madeline really admired Carrie and had never met her. And so how that whole came together, it was just like, okay, that's when this is God's work. So,
yes.
Anyway,
absolutely.
so we're just open to that second. I always try to have a religious person on that conference, so I don't have it booked yet. And then we talked about October, the pledge drive, and then November is the Hispanic men's conference. in Jerome. So I think I went through the whole calendar.
Awesome. Okay, so we end with the men's conference, the Idaho Catholic Hispanic men's conference in November, and then December we kind of just let Advent take over because there's so much.
Yes,
there's so much. Plus, people just don't have time with the holidays to do that. So I'm glad that give a little space, a little peace, time of relaxation before Christmas season hits. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to tell or point the listeners to? So we kind of talked about the spotlight, listening for PSAs on the radio.
Yeah. Be sure to share your PSAs. If you have an event, go to the website. Under the Contact Us tab is public service announcements, and that's free.
Yeah. What's our Facebook page called?
Salt and Light Radio.
It's just Salt and Light Radio. Yeah. So you can follow us on Salt and Light Radio on Facebook. You can follow us at Salt and Light Radio on Instagram and YouTube as well. And then we actually have, so for the Desert Wanderer side, obviously, since I'm part of Salt and Light, we will be hosting a lot of the, or we'll be promoting a lot of these events as well on our page. So you can follow us at the Desert Wanderers podcast on Twitter. And then Desert Wanderers podcast on Instagram. And then we share Salt and Light Radio, YouTube, and then on Facebook as well. We share that account as well.
Absolutely.
So there's all the social media platforms. We'll have tons of information about all the events throughout the next year as well on our show. And then we'll be able to hopefully bring our community closer, one event and radio session and podcast at a time.
Absolutely. And if you have a stirring in your heart, like, I'd like to serve God and I just don't know how, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Please talk to us. We have all kinds of opportunities and we need the help, to be honest. There's so much work to do.
Yeah.
So I like to talk to the volunteers like, hey, what do you like to do? It's so funny. I can usually God provides you right at that moment. So if you have that stirring in your heart, please connect with us. And it could be
even for younger people, like, I mean, even if you're like a homeschool student or someone in Catholic schools or whatever, like, your gifts are valuable.
Absolutely.
And we love them.
They've been giving to you and you need to go share them. And we might be that link to connect you.
Yeah.
It's
not even just with Salt and Light, but if there's a need in the community, we have that information if something's closer to you or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have so many stories about how God has put people like this woman. She was on our phone bank. Yeah. She hated that. You have to be able to type and talk. She hated that.
Yeah.
She's like, all I really want to do is vacuum. I'm like, I would really love for you to vacuum. It's like she loved to clean. It's like, we would love for you to clean. So, you never know. We had a gentleman that we have 15 acres back here that we have to mow.
Yeah. Doesn't he mow
He did. Yeah. He brought his tractor and would mow. It was such a gift to us to not have to worry about that stuff. And I had a gentleman
because we have to pay for that. We have to have someone come in and pay for that. And if
or
you
we
like
do it
to
ourselves.
yeah.
A gentleman, he was really good with his hands, and we had a toilet that needed maintenance, and it was just like such a gift to us. So if God gives you something, you're talented in something, and we probably could use it because there's so few of us here, and like I said, so much work to do. Or if you want to learn how to do something, we could probably train you in some aspects of broadcasting in that respect.
Yeah, I don't know if people know that there's only 6 of us that work at Salt and Light.
It used to be less than a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about that, just keep that in mind. Like, if you think that this isn't necessary or whatever, there's only 5 of us that run the station and help put on events, and obviously we rely heavily on our volunteers, and
Absolutely.
we're so grateful for God and so grateful for our volunteers. But if you have a stirring, answer the call.
I love my ambassadors. It's a monthly group. We meet once a month, but that's sharing with us what's going on in your parish, and in turn they share with the parish what's going on with us, kind of thing, mutual thing. I call it my think tank, but that's very little requirement. I think you heard on the PSAs, the rewards can be eternal because you just don't know how that bumper sticker, that bookmark, that pen at an event impacted someone's life.
Yeah.
So, and that's a 90-minute meeting once a month, and then maybe putting bumper stickers or brochures, or you're telling me, I need a screen on the television. We have this television in our lobby, and I'd like it. It's like, oh, there'd be something that we didn't think about.
Right.
So anyway, Ambassador program is an easy way. great people to work with, and that's a once a month meeting over Zoom. You don't even have to, you can stay in the comfort of your home.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you do, we could use more volunteers, to be honest, to do all these things that we talked about here today.
And we have lots more in our heads, lots of ideas to serve the community, though, and that's the whole point.
Absolutely.
We're here to teach and to serve.
Keith's like, stop doing parades, Carol. Right? You have more important things to do. We know it's important, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's easy, but it takes a lot of time. So if you want to, I'm creating a parade committee to drive in the parades and decorate according to our theme. So that's another need for 2025.
Yeah. So in a second here, we're going to have Keith on to actually talk about the Vigil Project that is going to be going to 4 different locations throughout the state. So I just want to thank Carol for your time, and thank you so much for all of the work that you do at Salt and Light and helping us promote all of these and create, help promote and generate ideas for these events throughout the year and helping our whole community be able to experience those. So thank you, Carol, and I'll be seeing you later.
All right. Thank
but
you,
now
Natalie.
we're going to go ahead and have Keith on. So
God bless. Thanks.
How are you, Keith?
I'm pretty good. Yeah.
So you went from not being on the podcast to being on the podcast twice in like 6 months. Here we are.
Does that make me a star?
I think so.
Oh, yay.
You're at least famous.
Yay. Good.
So one of the things we wanted to have you on, Carol was just on. We talked about a lot of the events that we have for the next year, but one of our big events, which we're really excited about, is the Vigil Project. And we wanted to have you on to go ahead and talk about that a little bit in depth.
Right. Well, so I think maybe it would be helpful to back up a step or two first.
Sure.
Many of our supporters at Salt and Light Radio would be familiar with what we have traditionally called our summer galas. So for the last, 13 years, something like that, 13 years, 12, 13 years. Yeah. I don't think it was 13, 12 years, I think. I didn't actually do the math to count it up, but what started as a celebration for religious freedom in the United States, a fortnight for freedom was what the Catholic bishops had called for that initial summer that we did in a summer event. Really morphed into these benefit dinners that we've been doing every summer to raise working capital, especially for our big capital projects, right? I mean, our primary funding source still is the pledge drives, the on-air pledge drives that we do twice a year, but we felt like we needed another kind of revenue stream, especially for the big capital project. Replacing equipment in the radio business is quite expensive. Buying or building radio stations, especially that big monster that we just built out in eastern Idaho, it takes a lot of capital, a lot of working capital to do those sort of things. So we've had the summer events, the summer gala events, which have been great. Actually, they've been lovely, well attended, well supported, and so forth. But we've been doing it for a number of years now, and even though they've all been great, we've had some dynamite speakers too, right?
Yes.
Over the years that we've had out for those events. But we thought, the model is, it's a little tired, maybe, right? There's a lot of summer gala. There's a lot of gala dinners, that sort of thing, right? Especially here in the Boise area. I don't know so much in eastern Idaho or down in Twin Falls, but anyway, we thought, maybe it's time to try something a little different, something new and exciting and fun. And so we thought, what about a benefit concert? Now, we're not a music radio station at Salt and Light Radio, right? We're primarily a talk format, but we play some music, and of course we're all about, our mission is to evangelize and to teach the faith, right? And there's all kinds of ways to evangelize and teach. Music certainly can move the heart, right? And so we thought, how can we have an authentic Catholic music sort of event, while still raising some money, because we still need the money, right? So anyway, so I thought about having a big event. The thing about Catholic performers in the United States, anyway, but, decent sized names, it's a pretty small group of people, right? That are in the Catholic music world sphere. And so so we looked at getting a very big name, which he was available, but he was also very expensive. And we thought, well, maybe we'll try somebody that's a little bit more affordable and a little more eager to work with us. And so I really felt like it was divine inspiration. Actually, I had gone to the daily mass at Sacred Heart Church here in Boise, and one of the songs that they sang was "O Sacrament Most Holy, O Sacrament Divine, Sweet Sacrament," right? Is kind of what the song is variation of it is, the kind of the modern version of it. And I really liked that song that they sang, actually. And I thought, I want to hear that song, and I wonder who else plays it, whatever. So I got on YouTube and, find out who's performing this song. Well, anyway, it turns out that the one that floated to the top was put out by a group out of New Orleans called the Vigil Project. Vigil, V-I-G-I-L, the Vigil Project. And anyway, so I ended up on their website, and I really like their music a lot, actually. They're really great. Really, again, authentically Catholic, primarily do Catholic hymns, but also some praise, type of music. And interestingly, they have their own apostolate where, their main mission actually at the Vigil Project is to support music ministry at the parishes in several dioceses around the country. And so anyway, so when I got a hold of Greg Bordeaux, is the executive director of the Vigil Project, a super nice guy. And I told him kind of what we were up to. They were looking to do a benefit concert model to still raise, some money for Salt and Light Radio. He was all excited about coming to Idaho. Of course, he'd never been to Idaho, right? A New Orleans boy. And anyway, and so we started talking about some potential dates and so forth. And then I said, I asked him if he would be willing to maybe do more than one concert, right? Because we broadcast now in 4 separate regions of the state, right, where we have our radio stations. In eastern Idaho, in southern Idaho, down in the Twin Falls area, the Magic Valley, here in the Boise area, of course, the Treasure Valley, and up in Grangeville, Cottonwood, up on the prairie, right, Camas Prairie. And so anyway, so I asked Greg if he'd be willing to do not one concert, but 4. And he said, well, sure. He says, like, you're paying to bring us out anyway, all the way from New Orleans, right? Might as well, the more the merrier, right? So, so anyway, so we decided to put together this little tour of Idaho, a little, Idaho tour for the Vigil Project. And so we kind of agreed on sort of the target dates, right, which are the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. Right, so we're going to basically start on the east side of the state and work west. So we're going to do Idaho Falls on the 11th, Twin Falls on the 12th. These are all in June, mind you, second week of June. So June 11 in Idaho Falls, June 12 in Twin Falls. That's a Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the 13th here in Boise, and then Saturday the 14th up in Cottonwood. And so we settled on those dates, and then the next question that came up, of course, is the venues, right? And so we started thinking about, like, well, what would be kind of some neat venues? And I had already been in touch with the Egyptian theater here in town about for this other performer who will go unnamed at the moment that we looked at bringing earlier. And the Egyptian theater, I don't know if you've been in there, but it's the renovation that they did is quite lovely, actually. It's beautiful. It's a very nice venue, and holds about 700 people, so it's a nice sized venue too. Big, but not too big, right? Right. Still has a nice intimate feel to it. And it turns out that the Egyptian is not the only kind of historic theater of its type in Idaho. There's a similar theater down in Twin Falls called the Orpheum Theater in downtown Twin Falls. Again, turn of the century, early 1900s kind of theater that's been renovated, nicely done. And there's the Colonial Theater out in Idaho Falls that was just recently renovated about 6-7 years ago. Lovely and big, too, actually. I think Colonial holds almost 900 or something like that. Wow. I don't know that we can get 900 people to a first-time event in Idaho Falls, but we'll see. Anyway, so all the venues kind of fell in place, and the band fell in place. And so we thought, okay. The only piece that was kind of missing is, historically we've had a Catholic speaker give kind of a keynote, right, around a theme. And so our group started talking about a theme, and this is our 15th year of broadcasting at Salt and Light Radio, which we're pretty proud of and excited about. And so we felt like, this theme of an evening of praise we have a lot of things to praise God for, right? Praise God for 15 years of broadcasting for Salt and Light and Solid Loose Radio, but praising God for the news station in eastern Idaho, right? For the folks out in Idaho Falls. Praising God for, it's obviously a Jubilee year or whatever, right? So there's all kinds of things to give praise for. And again, I think, everybody will find that the music from the Vigil Project is very uplifting and very praiseworthy, right? And so anyway, so the only other missing component that we thought about was having, traditionally at our summer galas, we have had a keynote speaker come and speak on the theme. And so arguably our most popular program on Salt and Light Radio is Catholic Answers. And so Chris Check, who's the CEO of Catholic Answers, he's the top guy for Catholic Answers in San Diego. He's very kindly agreed to come up and not only give a keynote for one event, but for all 4 events.
How amazing.
So Chris committed to being part of the tour. And so we're very grateful to Chris for that, too. And anyway, so I think it's going to be a great night. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, right? Again, a real uplifting, fun evening. And again, a beautiful venue, beautiful band, beautiful talk. And hopefully people will still be generous with us to support us in our mission in the work that we're doing at Salt and Light.
Yeah. And so with that, how can people find out more about the Vigil Project for this summer? Because I mean, unlike the gala, to my understanding, the gala was just here in the Treasure Valley. Is that correct?
We had they started here just in the Treasure Valley. We eventually incorporated the Magic Valley, so we did a twofer took the guests down to Twin Falls. It's not generally practical, right? Especially now. Again, one of the things that it's not generally practical to expect a guest, right, to take 4 days, take a whole week basically, right, and haul them all over the state of Idaho. But Chris has kindly agreed to do so, and the Vigil Project kindly agreed to do so. So we thought, again, what a great opportunity to bring something, not only to Boise, but obviously to those outlying areas where they don't get as many opportunities, right, like we do here in the Boise area. So, so I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great opportunity for those folks. And the thing about I've had some people comment like, well, who's the Vigil Project? I mean, the Vigil Project doesn't have kind of the brand recognition, say, right, of Matt Maher or one of these other kind of Catholic,
or the Hillbilly Thomas, or the Franciscans, Franciscan Friars of Renewal
Sisters, these sort of things. So anyway, so Greg obviously is licensed, given us a license to broadcast his music. So you're going to start hearing more Vigil Project music on our radio station, and so that's forthcoming. Brian Howell, our production manager and host of Morning Light, is going to be interviewing Greg as well here in the next week or so, to sort of kick off the thing. And we'll incorporate the Vigil Project, obviously, into our Spring Pledge Drive coming up in March. And so... I think, I would just encourage people to go out to thevigilproject.com. So I would encourage people to go out and check out their website. And and all their music is on all the main platforms, YouTube, Spotify, etc. And become acquainted. They the Vigil Project. They're great. They're legit musicians. They performed at the recent Eucharistic Congress in Indianapolis, and so anyway, again, and and I think currently, in fact, they're touring in Europe for the first time. Coming up this spring as well. So
that's awesome.
So they're definitely getting some traction, and again, we're excited to have them out to Boise, out to Idaho.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so then for people to find out about the event, there'll be more information via the Spotlight probably, and on our website. And obviously we'll be talking it up as soon as PSAs will come out.
As soon as the registration is open. We're targeting February 1st to open the registration for the event,
which is also the men's conference. So right. double. If you go to the men's conference, you can also look into the Vigil Project.
Perhaps, yeah.
Awesome, Keith. Well, thank you for coming on. And I'm excited. So just to wrap up this episode, we've had lots of information for everyone to get involved with what's going on for this next year. You know, our mission here at Salt and Light is to evangelize and teach, but part of that is also community. And the one thing that all of this encompasses is there is times for evangelization. We have events that'll teach you, but it also is a great opportunity for us to all come together as a community and to grow our network as
right.
Catholics.
That's
so
right. Well, the final part of our mission statement, right? Evangelize and teach the truth to evangelize and teach the gospel of Jesus Christ with the fullness of the Catholic Church, right? We try to be salt and light to all, to build up Christ's body, the church. So that's the final piece, right? And so building up Christ's body is building up the faithful, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think that especially with this being a Jubilee year, this is going to be, I mean, obviously God is going to bless all of this. And so, but it's extra blessed because it's a Jubilee year. So
that's right.
We're really excited at Salt and Light to provide all of this and all these events for everyone. And we hope to get to meet everyone face to face and get names and put names to faces. And we just thank you all for your support.
Mm-hmm.
Being a part of the Salt and Light Radio family, as we like to say. Yes.
Yeah. And we will see you in the next episode.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Desert Wanderers. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe down below. We're produced by Salt and Light Radio, so you can find us on social platforms at Salt and Light Radio or Desert Wanderers Podcast. We produce episodes every week and we launch them for you on Wednesdays. So make sure to tune in for next week's episode and we'll see you then.